Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another video. Women who don't chase Mr. Goodbar. And before I go any further, I want to thank one of my commentators, I Want My Vision Back, for suggesting this topic. Well, actually, he was just asking a question. I was like, oh, okay, that's something good to talk about. See, a lot of times when we talk about women chasing these bad boys, these players, the alpha males, we act like, all these women are chasing these men. Or sometimes we qualify it and, we talk about that whole 80-20 rule, like 80% of the women are chasing 20% of the men. All right, okay, whatever the number. According to some people, is 95% of the women chasing 5% of the men. Thank you, Don Calypso. But the reality is, many women are not chasing Mr. Goodbar. And I don't mean even in terms of their own personal Mr. Goodbar. See, one of the things we have to realize is all women don't want that social alpha male. And when I say social alpha male, like that tall guy with, the muscles and popular and all of that popular image. Because when you get down to it, every single woman has her own idea of what she wants, her own type. Now, of course, we see these guys getting their lion's share of the women. They're getting their women and they're getting your women too. And we can't discount that. But there are women who, for whatever reason, aren't chasing Mr. Goodbar. Now, if we want to break down the reasons why not, first of all, it usually goes back to their father. I found with women who aren't as caught up in that chase, tend to have very strong father figures who might not have been, good bars themselves, but they were good guys. They did what they were supposed to do. They had a close relationship with their daughter. Remember, in that video, I talked about the womb imprint. The child's father, the girl's father, is her really first imprint of what she wants in a man. She's going to look for a guy like daddy, provided that the relationship is positive. These women who don't chase Mr. Goodbar usually, there's always an exception, but usually have a good relationship with their fathers. So that's the first thing. And two, one of the things I found, a lot of you still have several outlier women out there. They're not part of the crowd, and that could be for whatever reason. They could be those awkward girls in school. They can be those late bloomers, the nerdy type of girl. One thing I found, a lot of them they really adhere to whatever religious sect that they're a part of. Because you have some, and that's an important issue, because you can't really separate who a woman wants from how she was indoctrinated religiously or spiritually, however you want to use the term. Because you have several religious sects out there, like even within the Christian religion, you have several sects who are very, I would say they insulate their members from the public as much as possible. And they especially insulate the girls from the public. You have those church girls. They only hang out, do church activities, and only hang out with other church girls. And you have that in other religious sects as well. And anybody who, I've always talked about there are several subcultures, in the West, particularly in the black community. And just to be clear, this conversation about women who don't chase Mr. Goodbar, that applies to all races in Western culture. But whatever the case, you just have some women, they just outliers. For whatever reason, they haven't really chased Mr. Goodbar. And what it comes down to is their imprint. Because, and this is something I mentioned in a previous video, all women are not imprinted by a Goodbar bad boy player. for whatever reason, they get imprinted by a regular dude. In some cases, rare cases though, they might be even imprinted by the school nerd. It really depends. It really depends. Because understand something. If, as far as just sex, it's not just the alphas who are getting the sex. They just get more sex, but a lot of guys who would be considered beta or, in extremely rare cases, omega, a lot of those guys are, they still get some. And when you're talking about young teenage girls, sometimes they'll just deal with whatever's there. Because the thing about getting with the bad boy, the player, the Mr. Goodbar in high school, especially when women are young, we have to remember Mr. Goodbar picky too. So a lot of these women might not register on his radar. Yet these women are still horny. So shoot, they get those other guys, as long as they cool. And then, you know what, sometimes a woman just like a man, or like a boy or something, and they might hook up with him. See, that's one factor we tend to forget about in relationships. We talk about all this stuff. We talk about how the dude look, how tall he is, how much money he got, how much game he got. Sometimes a woman just likes somebody for whatever reason. And it don't even have to deal with him reminding her of her father. Especially in a situation where she can get to know a guy. And especially in that situation, like she might meet, like you might have a girl, right? Young girl. She meet a guy and she might not be feeling him at first because he isn't cute or popular. But she get to know him, find out they got something going on. And, those young girls, they horny. So she might be like, you know what, I'm going to get this dude some. And then there's that whole thing of sympathy pussy. There's a lot of women, they might just find somebody, it's like, damn, this dude is dorky and all of that. I'm going to hook up with him. Especially since that tall dude ain't, basketball star ain't paying any attention to him. I mean, it's a lot of factors. And usually when you see women like that, when they become older, they actually are in much demand because they usually get along with guys better. They not turned out. They usually had positive relationships for the most part. Now, it's not to say everything is perfect. Of course, they go through breakups and all of that. And it's not to say that, that nice guy or that nerdy guy she hook up with wouldn't cheat on her. Or, meet somebody and want to upgrade. Well, that's who she'll hook up with. Because, keep in mind something else. Every guy is a Mr. Goodbar to somebody. Maybe not to everybody else, but to that one girl. And see, and I've seen that. I've actually talked with some women who hooked up with guys, or their first guys weren't the stars. And they'll say, yeah, this type of guy, they cool with it, but they'll tend to go for that guy. So when they get out there, they not chasing Mr. Goodbar as much. And I'm gonna throw this out there too. I'm gonna get a little deep with y'all. Another type of woman who doesn't necessarily chase Mr. Goodbar is actually a thought. And I know that goes against what y'all thinking, but hear me out. Thoughts are actually more open. So they have a greater range of the type of guys that can turn them on. That's why you might see every now and then, you might see some thought type of woman with a guy who might be considered less than cool. Because she just, for whatever reason, she likes him at that moment. She doesn't take as much. Because, now, pay attention to what I'm about to say. The women who chase Mr. Goodbar the most are actually sexually repressed. Because when a woman is sexually repressed, it takes a whole lot more from a man to arouse her. Like, the more repressed she is, the more that man has to be damn near perfect. That's why you see some of those women and you can look at them. You could tell that they're, they don't have any sex appeal. Probably don't have any type of figure or anything. Or if they do, they hide in it. Like, you can look at them and see the sexual repression. Those type of women will chase Mr. Goodbar more than just some regular woman or even a thought. because they need that type of man. They need that guy with the high sexual magnetism to like open them up. And I've seen it 1,000 times. I mean, women will even pay for it. That's why if you look at the women who pay gigolos and stuff, those ain't typically, they're not very attractive women. Typically, you know. Or I mean, I've seen women who will pay strippers to sleep with them and stuff, and they never the top tier women. So, you know, and I just wanted to put that out there real quick. You know, there's several women who don't chase Mr. Goodbar. And one thing, it's not so much about the women, but it's so much about the guys listening. Because sometimes, you know, I get some fellas out there and they think, oh, well, I'm not a Mr. Goodbar. I'm not all of that. Or I need to become one. It's like, no. You just need to find those women who might not be chasing Mr. Goodbar, which is quite a few, really. Quite a few. Is it the majority? Hell no. Let's just turn, because even some women who weren't imprinted by Mr. Goodbar, they still chasing those fantasy type Goodbar types. But you still have a healthy percentage of women. I'm not going to say I'd put the number. And I'm just saying this is unscientific, and well, I'll just say based on conversations I've had with women over the years, I'll put it at roughly, well, 20 to 30%. So that 80-20 rule, hey, that's still there. That other 20%, let's just say, for argument's sake, that 20%. Yeah, it's not a lot. Nah. You're going to be competing with them. And that's a funny thing with those type of women. They tend to have a lot of platonic guys around them, just hanging out. And it's not like even a woman put them in a friend zone. They just get so many guys trying to come at them because typically they're different from so many of the other women that guys figure, hey, I got a chance with them. And I've seen that. I've seen many of these women, and they'll be cool with that guy. You know, they'll think that like nerdy guys somewhat cool. Partly because they kind of nerdy themselves, so they like, shoot, boom, let's hook up. And you get a lot of women like that. And that, like I said, let's be clear, not the majority. You gonna you gonna be digging. It ain't quite a needle in a haystack, but you know, more like a brush in a haystack or something. But it's, well, yeah, okay, something a little bigger. I don't know. But you're going to have to dig a little bit, go through the women. But there are those women out there. So, anyway, right? Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.